Now I'm on my knees one more time. I need you to take my pain and make it something beautiful. Take my sorrow, show me.
So hi everybody, we have Robyn today to really go through another piece of humanity changing work. So we are looking at what one change do you want to make for humanity through the lens of people actually doing the work in society from different lenses. I'm Chantelle Larsen. I'm your host. I'm a little bit glittery today. I was just explaining to Robyn I've got a Christmas do, but my whole world is around philosophy that we take in systematic change, and how can we do that? Sometimes top down, sometimes bottom up, sometimes across, or all three. So we are going to have hopefully a very nourishing conversation in this very cold world right now, because we're a little bit in winter, really tackling that from the different angles. And actually, we've got a little bit of excitement, and hopefully Robyn will say this in her introduction. She's just gone live with 15 charities. Do you want to introduce yourself and perhaps say why you are in such a glowing mood today?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Chantelle. I'm happy to be here. So my name's Robyn. I'm a co-founder of Pravi. It's a platform that we're building to help small to medium-sized charities find new donors. It's very new. So earlier this year, we won an Innovate UK Smart Grant, which is funding the research and development of the platform. But as you mentioned, very excitingly, 2 weeks ago, the first version, the MVP of our platform, went live for user testing. So it has been a journey sort of since April when we won the funding of transferring, I guess, an idea that myself and my co-founder Jeremy saw in our heads to real life. And to it kind of feels like bringing a baby out into the world because it's now a kind of a live platform that people can use, that charities can sign up to, and it's a super exciting step in the journey. The first step, but it's still, it's great to see it out in the world.
I love the likening to a baby, because it is something that kind of lives inside you, and you're developing it, you're looking at it from different lenses. Maybe you've backed other people to check you're not crazy. Until it's out in the world, then it doesn't really live yet. If we take a little bit of a step back though, what was your why? What drove you and Jeremy, or what was the why that was conceived that wanted to bring this impact out into the world?
So I think kind of personally, on a big sort of level, the charity sector, the nonprofit sector is the only thing that makes sense to me. So I kind of had a career working in different industries. I worked at university, I worked at a media production company, I worked for a tech startup. And I worked hard, I enjoyed it, it was good. But then I started volunteering first for a charity, spent 5 years volunteering, and then I moved to actually work for a charity. And, it's kind of cheesy to say, but genuinely, I felt like I found myself working at that charity. I felt this is where I'm supposed to be. There's purpose-driven work. This is the meaning. This is motivation, like endlessly turning up every day and working towards a mission that I really believe in. And from there, I knew that in some way I would always work in the charity or non-profit sector, because I always felt like, I don't know if you can relate to this, but I always felt like before I worked at a charity, I was a different person at work and at home. I was like two separate people. And I was always very kind of confident and outgoing in my personal life. And at work, I was always kind of a bit subdued and like head down, work really hard. And then when I worked at a charity, all that came together, and I felt like myself all the time. And I felt like I could contribute to this charity in all sorts of different ways. And I did really blossom there. It was an amazing experience. And so that kind of is what motivates Pravi. Like when Jeremy and I decided to go on this entrepreneurial journey, I knew that I wanted to build something in this space, because building something new takes a lot of energy, blood, sweat, tears, money, time, effort. And so I knew it had to be something that I cared about and that, meant something. And so that's why we decided to build for the charity nonprofit sector, because it's the only thing that makes sense.
I mean, I had this feeling that kind of crept in when you said that, because I know that feeling when you are your whole you. There is nothing like it in the world, and you get to be your whole you. I don't know if everyone ever gets to feel that, because some people will say to me, "Oh, you like them?" Like, you don't understand when you are able to be your whole you. There is no going back. And what's interesting is, sometimes I say, what did you see in society? What patterns? But for you, there was something intrinsically that happened, and it started from the intrinsic place. So they then go, how do I amplify that? Because what Pravi does is enable charities overall in an ecosystem to be able to tap into customer or donor insights. I say customer, I guess, because there's not customers in that way, but donor insights to be able to do the work that they're doing, to be able to do that purpose-led work. And that is the tipping point, I think, of technology rebalancing power systems and what technology can do with humanity. And then if you combine that with you, like a person like Robyn, which is then saying, I want to make more impact because this is where I feel me, but how do I amplify that to other organizations, other charities, where they would have to pay, God, not even thousands, but millions sometimes to even raise that kind of money to target and to get engaged and involved with people who believe in that cause. So if you believe in the cause of children, me, how do I, really engage with Chantelle, who may perhaps want to contribute to my need? And that's kind of what Pravi does. But you, am I right? Did I get that right?
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. So specifically for small to medium-sized charities. So how it kind of works with, like, we call it like tech for good, technology that's being built for like the charitable sector. There are lots of great platforms if you are a large charity. So if you're one of the kind of big brand charities like the Red Cross or UNICEF, and there's nothing wrong with these big charities, they do amazing work. If you're one of these big charities, there's technology out there for you. Like, there's amazing innovations happening that helps you optimize your donor list. So if you already have 10,000 donors, there's lots of AI-based tools that can help you. Okay, who should we target for this campaign? How should we maximize our ROI? Who is this? Who can we ask for a bigger donation? All that sort of stuff. Like, that technology that exists, not trying to compete with any of that. There's great, huge companies solving that problem. But what we found in our kind of customer research is the majority of charities can't use those tools because the majority of charities don't have huge donor lists. A lot of the charities that we work with might have 1 or 2 donors. And so there's nothing to optimize there internally. So how do those charities reach more people? How do those charities find new donors? And I really believe that if they could get in front of more people, they would find more supporters because they do amazing work. They often do very localized work, or they do very specific work for niche kind of causes that some people out there would have this huge affinity for. But how do they find those people? How do they get in front of them? And then what can they say? We're all competing for attention in, like, today's society. It's all just like a race. It's like, who can capture our attention first? And getting donations is no different from that, because most of this is done online, so on social media, on other online platforms. And so everyone is, scrolling. Everyone's got brands competing to, like, you should buy this thing, or come to this event, or donate money to this cause. And so it's really hard for a smaller charity to compete with all the information that's out there. And that's the problem we're trying to solve. We're trying to help these charities make data-driven decisions. We have a centralized data set that's everything we do is anonymous, so we don't deal with any sort of personal details. We're not telling charities, oh, call Roger on this number and ask him. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm not, it's not about call these people and ask for a donation. It's about based on the huge data sets that we have for your charity, so say your charity supports young children with cancer. Based on our data, we can see that the types of people who have the highest affinity to your cause are perhaps men aged 45 to 55, living in these areas with these interests who use these platforms. So you should go and you should message, you should to these people with this messaging because this is what they want to see. And that's what we're trying to solve.
What I find interesting with you is, I mean, we both come from, we've been in both sides. So you've got the entrepreneur side, but you've also got the corporate side. And for anyone that knows, I work with both. So I work with individuals, I work with entrepreneur, I work with corporate. But there is a commonality that I often hear, but I hear that entrepreneurs supersede in a way though. There is this voice of something internally raising up where you know something needs to happen or you know you need to speak up. I think corporates deal a lot with, oh, we just want people to speak up, either risk or innovation, and then you act on it. So anyone listening, because what we want to try and do is kind of spread humanity in the way, like, what is it, what would be the strategy or the tips that you would give for anyone that's got this little niggling voice like you had inside you to go and do something? What would be the thing that you advise them to do?
Absolutely. Number one is go and talk to people about the idea that you have. So that sounds simple, but it can be very nerve-wracking because you're putting yourself out there. And that took me a lot of time. So Pravi is the third business that I've tried to start in 2 years. The first business didn't do anything because I was terrified of telling anyone. I was terrified. I didn't sort of think I belonged. I didn't think I was a business owner. I didn't think I belonged in this space. I didn't see myself as an entrepreneur. And so I didn't go out and say to anyone, what do you think about this? Is this a good idea? Do you want this? Does this solve a problem? And so that has to be like kind of getting over that fear of saying you have an idea and talking to the people who you're trying to solve a problem for is like absolutely like fundamentally the number one step. And if you start talking to people and they start nodding furiously and saying, yes, like that is a problem, I want that problem solved, that would really help me. This sounds great. Then keep going. And if they seem lackluster, if they seem confused, don't throw it in the bin, but change and listen to what they're saying back. So if they're giving you feedback that maybe what you're saying is not quite right, but maybe they would need this, then adjust, because it is a constant, it's always changing, it's forever moving. You never know I don't know what Pravi is going to look like in 5 years' time. It's a journey of trying to find that fit, of solving the right problems and solving them in a way that is easy for people to use, and like so they think, wow, this is essential, this is an essential tool, and that doesn't happen overnight. But like number one, absolutely talking to people, and ideally I guess talking to outside your friends and family who are what maybe wonderfully friendly and supportive and just like, yeah, that sounds great. Like talk to the people who are going to use the solution that you want to build.
So move from internal dialogue to external dialogue, but definitely the external dialogue of the actual people it's meant to serve, and keep going, especially if you're getting the fury, the nods. And if you're not, then it's a dialogue. It's not a one-way discussion. It's a dialogue. There's feedback coming around what you should do, but perhaps by the very fact there's an internal conversation, you've sensed something needs to be different, but you need to kind of move from inner to outer dialogue. What have been the challenges for you and the opportunities? And I invite you to keep it real, because we know there's challenges and opportunities. But one of the few people though that got Innovate UK funding, because there was a whole debacle around that. So what are the challenges and opportunities of navigating to kind of be that change?
There's so many. So I guess
pick kind of tricky ones, I guess.
No, I think you have to think about even though you're building in an impact space, so even though we're building a platform to help charities, you have to think about the financial sustainability of what you're building. So you have to think about A, where you're going to get money from, and B, how you're going to make money moving forward. because it can't be built just on good intentions. It is a business at the end of the day. And so that's why the Innovate UK funding was so fundamental for us, because that is giving us a runway, 12 months to, and it's, it's meant for research and development. And research and development is basically figure out how you're going to solve this problem. And so that's why it's such a gift, this Innovate funding, because it's given us that 12 months. So I would say that type of grant funding where, it's not a loan, it's a, and it's not, not taking equity in the business. So it really is a grant. And you may not be Innovate UK, but if you can find that type of funding, that gives you a bit of breathing space, because building in the sector is challenging and you need time. So like you need to move quickly, but you need time to work out how you're going to solve the problem. And often like financial constraints are kind of the enemy of that time, that innovation time. So I think that's a challenge, like the financial sustainability. How are you going to keep going? How are you going to get your business off the ground? And especially if it's tech is expensive, and it's difficult to do. I think, another sort of challenge that we have, so currently this is also based on the financial, we're currently raising investment as well for Pravi. So we're raising like a seed round of investment. So we're also thinking forward of how can we keep going. And so you have to have an eye on the numbers, even when you're in the impact space. And that's probably something I've learned, because that's not an area that comes naturally to me, and it's not an area that I like doing, but it's really important for the sustainability of the business. And especially if you're going to hire people, how are we going to pay them? How are we going to have that job security? I think another sort of challenge as a founder is you never switch off. So you just kind of let go of that idea, maybe that you're going to switch off. But for me, my co-founder is also my partner. So we work together, we live together, we travel together full time at the moment. So we've been traveling for 2 years. And so you have to try and find space where you talk about something else or you do something else. And that can be really challenging. It can eat away your whole life. And so that's something that I've had to try and get better at. I feel just like it's never done. It's never enough.
What's your
Whatever
one
I
other
do.
thing that you can at least have a spectrum of? What's your one other thing?
My one other challenge in terms of
you were saying like make space, try and make space for something else. But what's the one thing that kind of outside Pravi?
Yes. Do I have a life? Do I have a life outside Pravi?
Yeah.
That's what you're asking. Yes.
It's one other thing. So I'm like, okay, what is that one other thing?
Yeah, no. So for me, as I say, traveling. So seeing new places. Jeremy and I have been traveling full time for 2 years, but even when I go to, I'm in the UK at the moment. So even when I just go to a completely new place within the UK, I feel this like rush of like energy. So the other weekend we went to Cheddar Gorge. It's not particularly glamorous. It was quite rainy. It was great.
No, but it's nice.
But it's beautiful and it's stunning and it has these amazing landscapes. And for me, that's how I can switch off, because I'm away from the laptop. I work obviously at home. So I'm away from home. I'm somewhere else. And that's how I can get distance from the constant.
So actually, for you, I want to touch on two more things, because people will not necessarily be able to read through the lines. So as far as I understand it, you're kind of cat or house sitting as well. So you're kind of creative in this. So what have you approached this? And I think this is about the ability to rethink, how do we do this? Like normally, you set up a business, you rent an office, you go and do this, but you have actually chosen a different path, which I'd love you to touch on. That's the first thing. Second, you're not the only person actually that has gone, I've launched this with my partner. Maybe people will not even can think of even conceiving that, because they'll be like, how do you stay sane? But is there anything which really helps you, as a partnership, going forward into a business, in case anyone else is crazy enough to get, I'm going to write my partner into my business? So number one and number two, just tell people a little bit about how you've rethought this way of being and living to be this change.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important. I think that I'm not saying the way that we have decided to do it is by the only way, but I think rethinking how you can structure your life. And it's about that financial stability that I was talking about earlier, which is, not the fun part, but it's a really important part. How can we keep doing this? And so, yeah, we've been traveling full time for 2 years. We're now completely in the UK because we have Innovate UK funding, but we're still traveling here. And the vast majority of the time we do house sitting, pet sitting, cats and dogs, through an app called Trusted House Sitters. And that basically means we haven't paid rent, mortgage, bills,
Jesus.
utilities, council tax, like the horrendous things, for like 2 years. And we don't get paid for pet sitting, so it's just a swap. So we come and live in the house. I'm in Bristol at the moment, and we look after the pet while the person, usually they're on holiday. And that lifestyle has its challenges, and that lifestyle is not right for everyone. But I think, as you said, it's not. I'm not saying everyone who wants to start something should do pet sitting, but I am saying, again, to get that financial freedom, to get the flexibility, to get the time to learn, and to create and to innovate, you need to give yourself space financially, space like in your head.
I think it's worth rethinking systems. Just because we did things for like 100 plus years, like how can you rethink the system for you, which will enable you to drive success? So yes, it might not be right for everyone, but it's another way, and we don't hear that this often. So that's why I wanted to touch on it, because it might just be the enabler that other people think, oh God, well, if I didn't have these costs, I would be able to do this. But you also talked about like kind of your motivation of travel. How do you keep that energy up? And if you're someone that sparks energy from different places and so forth, and you can, navigate around, that only gives that gives an option to someone else. So how about the energy in the partnership while you're while you're navigating the business world together?
No, unsurprisingly, you're not the first person to ask this. Often people ask, they're like, how do you run a business with your partner? Like, I would kill my husband, wife, whatever. But I would say that for me, the main thing, like the overarching kind of big thing, is that we agree on the end goal. We agree where we're going. And we don't always, agree on every little step that it takes to get there. But the end vision in terms of both the business, but also our life in general, what we want our lives to be like, what we see as being possible in the future, that we completely agree on. And so that makes all the small things still lead to that end goal that we agree. And I think that's really important. If you have different views of what success looks like, or how big do you want your business to be, or what do you want? Do you have kind of wild aspirations to be a famous billionaire entrepreneur? See, what do you want? If you differ on that, then the small steps will be more conflicted because you're trying to go in different directions. So I think that's my sort of the big kind of advice. And then the sort of day-to-day advice is we take different responsibilities. So we don't work side by side on every single thing, because that would drive us both mad, and also not an efficient use of time. Exactly. We don't need to each be in, we're not both in every meeting. We're not both, being copying each other into every email. We trust each other to do the things that we do. So I do, the marketing, the growth, the talking to charities, the customer feedback, everything to do with the charities. Me, luckily for me, I find Jeremy's part the boring part, which he's happy to do, which is the fundraising, all the accounting, the product management, everything, all the spreadsheets. He's good at all that stuff. He has a background in that, like, digital transformation, and so in terms of managing, the product, the roadmap, where we're going, like, he's highly experienced at that. And so we have these kind of lanes, these complementary lanes. And I would really recommend that. Like, you don't need two people to do everything. And actually, when you're starting out, it's only the two of us. So both of us doing everything is we're not going to get where we need to go quickly enough if we both do everything. So you just have to trust the other person to do the bits that they said they're going to do, and vice versa.
For me, I think there's lessons regardless if you're a small SME or a big one. You nail it of a lot of the problems. Don't need to be in every meeting. You need to
Yep.
trust people. You just need to be aligned on the big vision. But we as humans are so different. There will be different approaches to it. And it's the beauty of kind of yin and yang. I think about me and my partner, where it's yin and yang. But actually, the beauty of that person being very detail orientated and OCD, which is not me. But that means that person can capture the things that you wouldn't, and then you can gravitate towards those things, and then those lanes, yeah, they work beautifully. So I want to sum up in terms of now what, but I think, gosh, there's so many learnings from, first of all, wholly finding your purpose. I think that's the one gift that we should all give ourselves. And it doesn't have to be, I know, like my dad was a factory worker, right? But outside of that, he loved dancing, moving communities. He's a salsa teacher in it old age. Because I do know, like, actually, at the end of the day, he had to bring food onto the table. So when I talk about your whole purpose, that can be in your work if you're lucky. And it can also be, so how it's somehow finding your whole purpose. When you found that whole purpose, is that taking that internal dialogue, don't let it get stuck here, because I think you kind of live with regrets. And overcoming that fear to start speaking to the people that it actually matters that you're there to serve. And there's something around this financial capability where you have gravitated not just to kind of giving you this short-term kind of runway a little bit, but you've got foresight. You're looking to the future as well, so that you can grow. And actually, you've just rethought systems and aligned relationships, even though it's a part, but you've aligned relationships by focusing on the vision. What next for Pravi and you? Another house, I know, at some point with a dog or a cat or
yeah, we're moving to a new house on Sunday actually to look after a cat. So that'll be good. I like being in a new place, so that works well for me. So yeah, for us, it's about, we have until June. We're funded by Innovate UK until June next year. And so it's about maximizing that runway. So we have technical partners who are part of that funding, who, are our engineers, our data scientists, who are, building the platform. And so it's about getting the most we can, the most value, the best product we can of this kind of very privileged runway that we have where that's funded. And so how can we make Pravi the best it can be, listen to user feedback, keep building, keep adding new features. And then kind of next to that is the investment, the raise that we want to do, because we want to, the Innovate UK money, so there's quite a few kind of rules and regulations, but one is that it can't be spent on commercialization or marketing. It's just on research and development. So if you want to spend any money getting your product out there, you need to find another avenue of funding. Obviously, you can use your own money if you have enough of it, but you need to find funding from somewhere else. And so that's why one of the reasons we're raising our seed round of investment, because we want to, once we're happy with what we have something really valuable, we want to obviously get it out on a bigger scale. And we've seen a lot of interest. At the moment, we're just based in the UK, but we've seen a lot of interest in the platform from the USA and Canada. So we're really interested in bringing out a platform that helps nonprofits there as well, because there's 2 million nonprofits in the USA, which is a mind-bending number. But so we really have a global focus. Like I strongly believe in global solutions for global issues, and so we want it to be a global platform. And once we're kind of finished our stint in the UK, hopefully we can, travel and take it out in the world as well.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So rich user feedback actually until June. But for me, rich user feedback can be at some point, what you share, because the stories and the learnings, successes, what to do, what not to do is actually really useful to just even 2 million in the US. And the political shifts that we're facing at the moment will mean that it's even more needed. I'm sure there's going to be cuts and different things, which makes it really hard on the sector. I think the sector itself is struggling. because of macro economics, let alone the political shifts, which are going to come hard and fast with new administrations. Where do people find you, Robyn? Is it LinkedIn or private? Where do people find you? Perhaps, if they want to be, hey, I want to be in the next. We've got 15 at the moment, but I want to be in that kind of next stage, of research. Where do they go to?
So LinkedIn's the best place. I'm always on LinkedIn, so you can find me, Robyn Greaves, on there. And our website is just pravi, pravi.ai. So if you want to find out more and you want to have a look for yourself, you can go there first. But I'm always happy to just chat, meet people in the sector, meet other entrepreneurs, meet people who are thinking about being entrepreneurs. I get a lot from talking to people, and so happy to have those chats.
Lovely to talk with you before the glittering of the Christmas party. And really, just to share, I think you can only share through learning, right? So when people kind of share the story about what they're doing, it's not a far fetch for others to be making the impact in what they choose to do. I know it's taking you energy and many different, house moves, but there's been lots of travels along the way. And I'll have to have Jeremy on another time and compare notes. But lovely.
I need you to take my pain and make it something beautiful.